I'm a 36-year-old man, married for nearly 8 years. My wife and I met back in college, dated for 3 years, and I truly believe we have built a strong, stable relationship. I work in finance and do well for myself, pulling in over $175,000 annually. She works part-time at a boutique, earning around $30,000 a year. The income difference never bothered me. I saw us as a team, thought we were partners in every sense. I was wrong. Her family has always been a source of tension. Toxic doesn't even begin to cover it. Her sister is particularly difficult. Twice divorced, perpetually broke, and constantly spewing negativity about everyone and everything. What's worse, my wife seems to become someone else entirely when she's around them, especially during holidays. It's like a switch flips. She tries hard to impress them, and even worse, she joins in when they mock or belittle others. Last Christmas opened my eyes. I had just received a generous year-end bonus, and, as always, I went all out for the holidays. I bought thoughtful, high-end gifts for everyone, and even rolled up my sleeves to help my mother-in-law in the kitchen. Meanwhile, my wife and her sister spent the afternoon drinking wine and doing absolutely nothing. Dinner started off like it usually does. Lots of small talk and gossip. Then things took a sharp turn. My sister-in-law began ranting about her latest ex, declaring that men are basically useless unless they're paying for something. She laughed. My mother-in-law chimed in, making a dig about how her husband couldn't even change a light bulb. But hey, at least he always brought home a paycheck. I stayed silent, eating, listening. Then my sister-in-law turned to me, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Honestly, some men are just bank accounts with legs." The table burst into laughter. I waited for my wife to say something, to defend me, or at the very least, to push back against the insult. She didn't. Instead, she smiled, nodded, and said, "At least he's reliable." Then she raised her glass and clinked it with her sister's. The whole table found it hilarious. I didn't. I kept my composure, gave a tight smile, sipped my wine, and quietly excused myself. I grabbed my coat, left all the carefully wrapped gifts under their tree, and walked out, drove home in silence. My wife didn't come after me, didn't call. The next morning, around 11 a.m., I got a text. "Where did you go?" So dramatic. I didn't reply. Instead, over the next 72 hours, I did what I needed to do to protect myself. I moved roughly 80% of our savings, almost entirely money I had earned, into a separate account in my name. I canceled all our joint credit cards. I removed her as the beneficiary from my 401k and insurance. I canceled her gym membership and changed the passwords on every shared streaming service. Then I called my attorney. On the third day, I sent one short message. "I'm not just a bank account with legs." My phone exploded. 27 missed calls by that evening. Her sister, her mother. Apparently, she had tried to make a big purchase, and her card was declined. Then she checked the accounts and saw they were nearly empty. The messages shifted rapidly, from angry demands to confused pleas to sheer panic. Then came the threats. "My cousin's boyfriend is a lawyer. What you did is illegal." I checked into a hotel. Maybe I was overreacting to a dumb joke, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just a joke. It was a moment the mask fell. I finally saw how she really viewed me. Fast forward 2 weeks. To answer the most common questions, no kids. Thank God. Yes, I hired a legitimate attorney. I didn't take everything. I left about 20%, which, frankly, was more than her contribution to the account. And yes, I have thorough documentation of every major expense I covered. I agreed to meet her for coffee. She looked terrible, tired, disheveled. But I wasn't falling for the sympathy play. She said, "You need to come home and fix this." I had to borrow money from my sister just to pay our credit card bill. I asked, "You mean our card? The one with the $3,400 Nordstrom charge from before Christmas?" She flushed red. "I was buying gifts, including your $890 handbag." I added. She started crying. "It was just a joke. You know how my family is." And that's exactly the problem. I do know how they are. I've seen enough. The conversation went nowhere. No ownership, no real apology, just deflection. I stood up. My attorney will contact you. This separation is permanent. Cue the dramatic waterworks, right there in the middle of the cafe. I walked out. The next day, her sister called me every name under the sun, accusing me of financial abuse. I blocked her. Then I returned to house while my wife was at work to grab more of my belongings. While there, I found a folder labeled medical records. Inside were hidden credit card statements. Over $120,000 in secret debt, spa days, designer purchases, gifts for her family. She had been hiding this from me, likely for years. I photographed everything and sent it straight to my lawyer. Then I changed hotels just in case. She still seems to think this is temporary. It's not. 1 month later, the divorce is in full swing. She finally got the message when the process server handed her the papers at work, after she spent days dodging him. The fallout? Her sister stormed into my office and had to be escorted out by security. Her mother called my parents, who lived 3 states away, claiming I was having a mental breakdown. She accidentally damaged my golf clubs. Friends are texting me, begging me to work it out. But I'm done. At our first official legal meeting, she showed up with some random attorney. Apparently, her cousin's boyfriend wasn't available after all. I came prepared. Detailed credit card statements showing hidden purchases, bank records proving I covered nearly every bill, and a clear breakdown of our finances. The mask is off, and so am I. I was the primary breadwinner, contributing over 90% of the household income. My wife often mocked my boring job and text to her sister, but never failed to love the steady paycheck that came with it. It stung, but I kept my focus on the bigger picture, believing that we were partners, that we shared our lives, even if I was the one shouldering most of the financial burden. Then came the spreadsheet. I had painstakingly documented our financial contributions, outlining every dollar that went toward the household expenses. It was a wake-up call for her lawyer when he saw the extent of it. The look on his face was priceless. They asked for a private moment, and I agreed, knowing the power I held in that room. When they returned, my wife looked defeated, resigned. They brought up settlement discussions, and I saw this as the opportunity for a clean break. I set my terms, clear and simple. No alimony, since it wasn't required in our state due to our marriage being under 10 years and both of us being employed. I would keep my retirement accounts and investments, and we would split the household items fairly. The house would be sold, and I'd recover my down payment before we split the proceeds. I made sure she took responsibility for the hidden debt, which her lawyer reluctantly agreed to. My lawyer assured me that my terms were more than fair. I knew I was walking away with a fresh start. A few weeks later, I ran into my sister-in-law at the grocery store. She tried to avoid me, but I wasn't letting it slide. I couldn't resist a jab. Still think I'm just a bank account with legs? She looked uncomfortable, not meeting my eyes. For the first time, she was struggling, not emotionally, but financially. She was finally responsible for herself. But I wasn't sympathetic. That's not struggling. That's growing up. And then I dropped the bomb. By the way, the $2,800 you borrowed from me for bills? She spent it on a weekend in Miami with friends. Check her Insta. Her face says it all. She was speechless. As she walked away, I couldn't help but feel a little satisfaction, knowing her life was falling apart while I was rebuilding mine. On top of that, I heard she was closing on a new condo soon. As for me, I started therapy. Work has been supportive, and life was looking up. The best part? I was sleeping better than I had in years. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. My wife accepted all the terms, no doubt advised by her lawyer that she wouldn't fare better in court. The house sold quickly, and after I took back my down payment, she walked away with about $45,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough for her to start fresh. I heard she moved in with her sister, but shockingly, they were already fighting over bills. That wasn't my problem anymore. I was thriving in my new place. I started dating again, not rushing into anything serious, but enjoying the company of women who liked me for who I was, not what I could provide. It was refreshing. Then out of the blue, I got an email from my ex. She wanted to meet for coffee. I was curious. When we sat down, she looked different, better, somehow. A new haircut, reasonable clothes, and she told me she had a full-time job as an office manager now. She was taking financial classes at community college, and she seemed genuinely reflective. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," she said. "I was awful to you, not just at that dinner, but for years. I see that now. My therapist helped me realize I was copying my mom. She always treated my dad like an ATM, and I thought that was normal, but it wasn't. It doesn't excuse it." I nodded. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter, but I wasn't ready to forgive either. "No," I said, "it doesn't, but I'm glad you're getting help." There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I paid off all those cards," she added, her voice a little proud. "It was hard, but I did it." "Congrats," I said, and I meant it. I wasn't happy for her in a personal sense, but I respected her for doing the hard work. As we were about to leave, she asked if we could be friends someday. I smiled politely, but inside, I knew I wasn't interested in reopening that chapter. I wasn't holding on to any lingering feelings, but I was glad to see her trying to better herself. Maybe that cycle of emotional dependency would stop with her. As for me, things were moving forward. I got promoted at work, reconnected with old friends, and my new apartment felt like home. I was cooking more, diving into photography, and even volunteering, teaching financial literacy to teens. It felt good to give back in a way I never had before. I still think about that Christmas dinner sometimes. How badly it stung to hear her dismiss me like that in front of her family. But I also realized that without that moment, I might still be stuck, living half a life, only value for my paycheck. The bank account with legs finally walked away, and in the process, I found myself